Hey everybody.
Hi everyone.
Hey, it's good to see you. Welcome to June.
June, kind of our
Yes.
favorite month.
Yes, because we were both born in June.
Couple of Geminis,
Yeah,
so you're watching the four people here
right,
pull this off.
right. And not only that, between now and the next update, we'll both be technically a year older.
A year older, yeah.
So
It's
there you have
coming.
it.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
I don't think the trees do that count
No,
in terms of,
they're not. They're
years.
not at all concerned.
Well, they do lay down those rings.
Yeah, we
You
can
did
tell
learn
how
about
old they
that.
are. They do
Yeah,
that.
they kind of mark the seasons. So maybe they do. Maybe they have little yippee, this is
Yeah,
when I
and
was born moments.
it's cool how they have the kind of a memory in those rings of what happened as far as the climate.
Oh my
Dry
gosh.
year, wet year, cold year, hot year, wind, insects, nuclear testing is
Yeah,
recorded in those
yeah,
rings. I mean, it's just
yeah.
really a set of stories.
Lots of grazing,
Yeah, yeah,
wildfire.
right.
Yeah,
Some hunter shooting an arrow long ago and
yeah,
missing the intended target and
yeah.
hitting a tree. All of it's recorded in those rings.
Right, right.
But
So,
here
but
we
here we
are.
are. And if you've been following, we've been talking about the origin of the universe. We've been talking about cosmology, and been talking about whether or not ecologies are conscious. And then we followed up that with going back to the thing that we've talked about so much here, but also in the Full Ecology book, about the myth of separation, the myth that any of us is separate from the natural world or even from each other.
Yeah, that's one of our favorite themes, and I think most essential themes, especially now with all that we're wrestling with as far as loss of biodiversity and, of course, climate change and habitat destruction. You know, all of that is made more possible by the fact that we think we're separate and disconnected, and we can sort of do whatever we want to this good Earth. Not so much.
No, 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 no. No, in fact, it's really more, as we've also said, that we are with kindred here, precious kindred, and they are generously taking care of us, and we are capable, and I wouldn't say obligated, I would say it's just our natural calling to be taking care of each other and of the natural world. So we've decided to spend the next 4 months, June, July, August, and September, looking at this question of how do we make it real, letting go this myth of separation. How do we make real letting go the myth of separation? You know, it's one thing to think about it, but it's another thing to actually do it. And so Gary often brings tidbits from science and the natural world that help demonstrate why even considering that we are separate just doesn't hold.
Yeah, and the more science matures, the more it verifies this notion of unity, which of course goes back to the very early stages of humankind. And in some ways, as you often say, science is catching up. And that's good. You know, I'd rather be in this phase of science than, say, in the late 40s or 50s, where we thought, well, nuclear bombs would be a good idea
Right.
to develop with our scientific prowess. So, yeah, maybe things are getting a little better.
And when Bacon was saying that thing that he said,
Oh, yeah, that we must put nature on the rack and torture her secrets from her. Yeah, yeah, we have come a long way, haven't we? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We're not without flaw, but yeah,
Right.
it's getting better.
Right.
That's wonderful.
So, and never in all of that illusion, delusion, um, what, arrogance, have we been separate. Never, not one moment, ever has anything in the human universe, and the human species been separate from the entire universe. So the universe it is appearing more and more, and science is showing this, but this is what saints and sages forever have suggested. The universe is the experience of unity in diversity. And here we are in this forest. We wanted to come to a place that could really illustrate Earth, because our first month's focus is going to be Earth, is Earth.
And we're going to go through the various elements in the next 4 months: earth, air, fire, and water. And so, yeah, it's Earth Month. And interestingly enough, that element of those four elements, and sometimes it's five and sometimes it's three, depending on the culture, but those two have been a part of human understanding and relationship for so long, as far back as we can see. And so Earth in a lot of cultures has been associated with the direction north, but also with the color green, which seems really appropriate given where we are right now at the eastern edge of Forest Park near Portland, which has to be one of the greenest places you could ever land in this country.
Yeah, we are smack in the middle of true, honest rainforest. And even though we are said to be in drought, like many, many places in this country and many, many places on the planet, it's still very green. And we had marine air, the just tiny, tiny mist that just makes these things flourish this morning, clear until, early afternoon. So it's still doing its thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Earth, when you hear the word Earth, one of the first things you might think is the planet itself, which is a worthy place for us to look when we think about separation. The planet is a part of this solar system. The planet is made up of these parts that Gary went through: earth, air, fire, water, these elements, and then all the beings that have emerged over evolutionary time. Stunning complexity and specialization. And so here we are in that. And that is the expression of Earth, which is also called Gaia. Say something about Gaia.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to talk about Gaia in the deep dives, and then over the next 4 months. It's the concept, as many of you know, actually James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis, a microbiologist, formed this notion that, not through any sort of overarching creator having the intention, but rather as a part of, I guess, Earth consciousness in a way, there are these self-sustaining systems on Earth. So you have a geosphere, which are the hard rocks in the Earth. Then you have the pedosphere, which is the dirt, and that's really more what we're talking about now, the Earth. Then you have the biosphere, which is all the plants and the vegetative matter. Then you have the atmosphere, and lastly you have the hydrosphere. And all of those are incredibly interrelated, to the extent that if something goes out of tune with the Earth in this sustainability question. I mean, if the oceans become too salty, if the air becomes too heavy with carbon dioxide, those systems will interact with each other to sort of get things regulated and back into homeostasis. One of my favorite examples has to do with the biosphere, the plants. They actually absorb carbon dioxide, and if carbon dioxide gets too heavy in the atmosphere, as it has in the past, and this is what we're sort of pushing beyond the Earth's limits to handle right now with climate change, but in the past, if carbon dioxide got too heavy, then the plants would respond by becoming much more profuse and prolific. And in becoming more prolific, they will actually absorb that carbon dioxide, and they will take that down into the soil, into the pedosphere, and it'll be stored in the soil. So the soil stores a lot of the excess carbon in the world, and then that ends up cooling the temperatures down again, and on it goes to maintain this beautiful, delicate balance. And that's what Lovelock and Margulis were talking about when they talked about the Gaia principle, that the Earth is this set of systems that works very closely together to keep things going within a fairly narrow range that life requires to thrive on this planet.
And this is part of the beautiful orchestration that is evident in the unfolding of this universe. And that's what we have talked about in recent updates in recent months. That there is a sensibility to it, and there is a precision to it that science is starting to catch up with, understanding that this emerges from something that is less random matter and more the expression of consciousness. And so this is really something to consider. But so Gary then made the bridge from the planet itself, which can be called, as a kind of gestalt whole, can be called Gaia, and the medium of soil. And so all of these things here are flourishing because they are nurtured by the dirt,
Indeed.
by the soil,
They sure
by
are.
the mycorrhiza in the soil, by the microbes in the soil, by the minerals in the soil. Everything that's in the soil is making this incredible lushness
Yeah.
possible.
Take away the dirt, you've got no life on,
You got nothing.
on Earth.
Yeah, but take away any of the elements.
Yeah,
and
that's
you've got
right.
nothing.
That's right.
And
It's very true.
so in this question, how do we really let go the myth? Well, part of it is getting real and telling ourselves the truth about the interdependence that we in these lives have with every cell in our body. Now, really ask that question, and we've posed it before: do you end where your skin ends? But let's ask the question: are you located in this physical form? Are you located in the, I mean, certainly you have the experience of this physical form, but is that you? Is that what you are? Or are you an expression of this uncanny interdependence of all that goes to making up your body and your body's interaction with everything else that keeps it alive?
Yeah, and what about the roughly million kinds of bacteria in your body that are essential for functioning of your physical systems, and on and on. I mean, and the microbes on your skin that help take care of pathogens that land on your skin and don't let them get in through your skin and make you sick. So yeah, we're just as connected, because we are nature, as the tree is to the soil, is to the air, is to the sunlight. We are as well. And I think just becoming more and more aware of that from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, it's a big part of kind of changing how you feel about the world, how you feel about yourself. And also, I think, experience a kind of comfort that comes from deep kinship. We all know kinship with each other, hopefully, at least a limited number of people. But the kinship goes to the dirt, goes to the rocks,
Yes.
goes to the ocean.
Any of you who are gardeners know this feeling. You know this passion, and you've observed for yourself citizen science, it might be called, or
Yeah.
just paying attention. It might have been called for time immemorial. But you know that the soil itself, the quality of the soil, the health of the soil, the happiness of the soil determines the happiness of the produce. And the happiness of the produce, and then its yielding fruit that you harvest, and then you let, in permaculture, you let the leftover plant matter go back into the earth. And this is the way that the soil remembers who it is and recovers. And then there was the brilliance of rotating crops that ancestors knew from just paying attention, right? And we forgot, and now we are relearning again some places and sometimes.
If you go buy a bag of rich potting soil to put in your garden, what you're buying is soil that's absorbed, as we mentioned earlier, all that carbon and made it very rich through composting, basically, is what carbon helps allow. And so, you're experiencing and enjoying the benefits of these interrelationships that we've talked about.
Well, and this harkens back to the work of some of our dear friends who are actively participating in regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And the primary strategy with this regenerative agriculture practice is to take these cattle and have them behave more like wild bison. And wild bison spend a lot of time shoulder to shoulder, and they move together from pasture to pasture. And so when the cattle are encouraged to do that, what happens with the bison happens with the cattle. The grasses that are indigenous to that place return, and they send deep roots into the soil. That nurtures the soil, as Gary was just describing, and at the same time, those grasses are better at drawing the carbon in. So that's the nurturing, right?
Yeah, and they're pounding what they pee, and their poop gets pounded into
Is
the
a
earth.
part of the nourishment
Yeah, the
of
earth
the
gets
soil.
aerated by their hooves, and then all those essential, like phosphorus and nitrogen, get put back into the earth that allow things to happen that then grow the plants, and it's one beautiful cycle
Yeah,
after
the
another.
bison do not exist without the soil.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about, we've been real fond in Western science of kind of prioritizing what's the most important species. Well, arguably the microbes in the soil would be contenders,
Yeah.
probably before humans, as far as the functioning of the planet.
And yet, at the same time, that's one of those things that we Western folk do, which is to say, okay, which is the best one?
Oh,
Let's
we love
figure
that.
out what gets the prize.
Top 10 at
And,
least.
every single bit, every one of you watching this, every one of you not watching this, every single bit, every inch of soil that you stand on. One more thing that I wanted to bring into this, just because it's so fun. Back when I was teaching 5th grade, I had the idea, actually I got it from another friend who was a teacher. I was in a pretty dry area of Texas, North Texas, and I suggested, I got a bunch of hula hoops, and I brought them in and had the kids get in groups and go out on the really dirt playground and put the hula hoop down and take notes on what they saw in the soil. It was amazing. They were gobsmacked. It was truly something else.
Yeah, I guess all we have to do is really pay attention.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do, is pay
Yeah.
attention.
And so this is what we have right in front of us to help us just gently remind ourselves and be comforted by the fact that we are not and never have been separate from the natural world, from each other, and put that down. And then watch the way that we interact with each other as if somebody else is stupid, and somebody else is ill-advised compared to how intelligent and how right we are, or that we're not as good as somebody else. I mean, it's just so, but that all comes from separation. All of it.
So between my birthday and Mary's birthday, which are only a few days apart, we're
Yeah.
going to do a deep dive
Yep.
on June the 10th and get into this more deeply, appropriately enough, and would love to have you there for the conversation.
Yeah, we do look forward to seeing you. It'll be at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. And if you're not on our mailing list, please drop us a line at connect@fullecology.com or go to www.fullecology.com.
It's that easy.
Go to the bottom of the home page and you can sign up and get on our mailing list. And we will love communicating with you with our monthly newsletter, and also seeing you at the deep dive.
Yeah, and
Which is a
have
free event, by the way, and very cool, the way people from all over the country get together to help us all think together more deeply.
and have a beautiful June
Yes.
solstice, summer solstice.
Yes.
Wow, that alone is such a
Yes.
cool time.
Welcome
And,
to summer.
Yeah, welcome to summer, everyone, and we'll hopefully see you on the 10th.
Yes, yes. And other than that, we are putting in the newsletter. We got a communication from the ranch, J. Barrell, that we work with in Montana. There are actually at least one more spot, maybe two, for the writing retreat. So if you have any interest, even if you don't think of yourself as that established a writer, come join us.
Yeah.
June 29th through July 3rd. It's going to be a great, wonderful time.
Inspiring
with each other.
and powerful.
And really
yeah.
so good in these challenging times that we're in. Really, give it a go. Come join us.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us
Yeah.
today.
We'll see you next month.